Don't fade me, bro. This is the WeWin Sports Podcast.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the WeWin Sports Podcast. Today, we will have our 30-second rants. Woohoo! Minnesota's overrated. We will give our pick of the weeks, and then we will talk about our survivor pools at Splash Sports, including the $100 buy-in World Championship of Survivor Pools. David Woodley is basically a professional sports bettor. Woodley has great knowledge and sharp takes. He has been on fire. My guy, Brandon Cantu, has some well-thought-out Contrarian takes. If you like the underdogs NFL, Contrarian Cantu is your man. Our guy, Ryan Feldman, used to work for ESPN as a stats guy. Ryan knows sports, and especially Ryan knows stats. All right, here we go. Monday Night Football is at Arrowhead Stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs host the New Orleans Saints. Cantu, you wanna comment on that and maybe ask Woodley a question?
I'm very concerned this week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Taylor Swift has now been missing 2 games in a row. Where are you, Taylor? I read I was reading up, and they were supposed to break up on September 28th, what her publicist leaked. Well, she hasn't been seen in 2 weeks. I read that they've been hanging out. Nobody's seen them. I don't know. To me, it kind of almost feels like they're breaking up. Travis isn't playing well. What are your thoughts, Woodley?
I mean, Travis is playing well recently. He got it together. He had a really good game. I mean, he finally put up some stats, but you could tell he was being a menace there. So yeah, maybe he ditched that anchor, and we can get back to reality now. As
Anchor?
Yeah.
Are you calling Taylor Swift an anchor?
Yeah. I mean,
harsh.
nothing, great. I mean, she's rich, but what does he need? He just got $100 million to do a podcast. I would love for it all to go away. I'd love for Kelce to start producing again, which he is. And I would really love to not hear from the idiot brother, ever again. He's on every commercial now. It's really, really bad. I remember when Baker Mayfield was on every commercial, and at least you're okay, he's a quarterback, but now you have this retired drunk dude from Philadelphia who played center. Who cares? No one cares about these fucking guys.
I agree with you, Woodley.
No one should care about them.
He's really turned into the Duff Beer Man lately. That he's just running around. It feels like he has a 24 pack on his arms. It is getting a little much for me too.
Yeah, well, they're in every commercial. I'm a fan of the multiverse, and personally, I love Taylor Swift. I think she's one of the most talented people around.
But why? I'm gonna keep going back to this, Phil. Every time you jump in and defend it, it's Phil knows he's gonna run into them sometime later this year. So he's gotta do it. So we'll never get what's in the
Okay, let's move on. It's interesting because if you look out there are a lot of people that are huge fans of the Kelce multiverse, and then there's people that are all right, enough already with Taylor Swift and the Kelce. I like it. I think the commercials, there's been a lot of commercials, so maybe it's been just a little bit too much, but I'm a fan of the multiverse. Now, Ryan, are you ready? We are coming to you for your 30-second rant. Hit us.
Yeah, speaking of the Chiefs are 4-0, but there's a lot of criticism out there about they're not playing well. They're not the same Chiefs. They're barely winning games. The Chiefs are the 4th team in this Super Bowl era to start 4-0, where each of their 4 wins are only by 7 points or less. First time since 1993 that has happened. Mahomes' stats are down. Rashee Rice is out. Isaiah Pacheco's out. I mean, but look, this is the worst talent on offense that Mahomes has had in this era with the Chiefs. And so, he's playing with a limited offense, and they're still 4-0. And all that matters in the NFL is wins. Their defense is elite. That is certainly carrying them to a degree, and then Mahomes wins the games to the end. But look at who they've played. They've played 4 decent teams so far. Ravens, Bengals, Falcons, Chargers, possibly 4 playoff teams or 4 playoff contenders. So it's not like they've played some easy schedule. They have 2 tough games next against the Saints this week, which we'll talk about, and then at 49ers after that. So we're really going to see how legit these Chiefs are after those 2 games. If they somehow win those 2 games, they could be 9-0 because their next 3 games after that are pretty easy.
Okay, Woodley, we're going to you for your 30-second rant. Hit us.
Yeah, I've sat here the whole time. I mean, now the Vikings are the best team in the NFL thus far. They're not Super Bowl favorites, but they are the best team thus far. They have the least amount of points given up in the NFC. I think they're 2nd or 3rd in most points scored. And if you actually look at when those points are being scored, a lot of it's in garbage time. They absolutely dominated Green Bay. They had a fluke fumble, muff punt or whatever. They still won. Like, at no point were they ever like not going to win that game. And they had some adversity there. Like, Darnold was able to prove that he went down and scored a touchdown when it mattered most. So the Vikings, you have to make them the NFC favorite at this point, unless McCaffrey actually comes back. And I don't think McCaffrey's going to come back. So that's the rant. It's pretty subdued. The other quick one is, I don't know what these NFL coaches are doing. Like, so many of them are so stupid. Like this refusal to go for it on like 4th and less than 2 from the 50-yard line. Like, McDermott, the Bills coach, is like the latest example of this. 4th and 2 from the 50. I think they're already down 7-0 to Baltimore, and you don't go for it with Josh Allen. And what do? You punt it, and all of a sudden it's down 14-0. They did it again, like down 14 as well. And what did the Ravens do? They went down and scored. So I don't know. Like, I think 10 of the coaches in the NFL should be like fired immediately. We can touch on that later though.
Okay, Woodley. Well, I'm going to go with my rant and then Cantu's. I'm going to switch order here because my rant, Danny, put that stat up on the screen, please. That shows that the Vikings are the number 1 in power. Woodley, I heard you say one word in there, unless McCaffrey, and then unless, and then there's a lot of unlesses. Let me finish my rant. There's a lot of unlesses in there, and I just got to tell you this. They are not the best team in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings. I know you're a homer. I know you're on fire with your picks and everything else, but I just have to say, and by the way, they did beat, I know, they beat Houston. They beat the Niners. They beat the Packers at Green Bay. I mean, have they accomplished more than anybody else? Yes. Are they the Super Bowl favorites? No. So my rant is, of course, you have to understand I'm a Packers homer, so I've not been a fan of the Vikings, quite the opposite of, although, kind of root for them. But I'm going to say that they do not deserve to be number 1. But if you come back and say, Phil, they deserve to be number 4, okay. All right, Cantu, I'm going to go to you for your rant whenever you're ready. Hit us.
What was going on last night with the referees and the Seahawks-Lions game? They usually call the referees zebras. Well, last night the referees were lions. They should have just been wearing Lions uniforms. It was absolutely ridiculous. The two-point conversion, I'm just going to go over 3 of them real quick, and there was many. These are just the top 3. The 2-point to DK was just a clearly missed call. The shin was in. They didn't even review it. They said they reviewed it. They didn't. Also, the pass interference on DK, that was nuts. In the one in the end zone, clear pass interference. And also the 2-point, not the 2-point, the 4th down conversion where they called offensive pass interference on Lockett. Absolutely ridiculous. All 3 of those plays ruined a great game. I just want to say, Geno Smith on the rant is just playing out of his mind, like throwing missiles to everybody. The Seahawks look good. It was the best looking 2-touchdown loss you'll ever see.
Okay, first of all, Cantu, I have to comment on your rant, and then we're going to go to Woodley for his number 1 pick. But let me just say this about your rant, because your pick of the week was Seattle. My pick of the week was, hello, Detroit. So to me, the game wasn't that close. To me, your team gave up 42 points, and you're complaining about the refs.
It was, by the way, it was up and down. The big thing was also on my rant was the DK fumble. That was a 14-point swing where they were going down to score. They were going to get a touchdown.
What does that have to do with the referees, Cantu?
They were going to get. Well, I'm just telling you, this is the swing. There's your 14-point swing, and instead it's a 70-yard fumble return to the 4 or something. That was really the difference in the game.
Okay. So we agree to disagree on this. I do think the refs were in Detroit's favor. I think they lose that game anyway. All right, Woodley, we're going to go to you for your number 1 pick. Don't tell me it's the Vikings.
Yeah, it is. But I want to clarify something with your rant. You saying they're not Super Bowl favorites? Like, way to go on that limb. They're 6th. I said they're the best team in the NFC, not the NFL. I still think the best team in the NFL, I still think, is the Chiefs. Like, it's the Chiefs until they lose. They're back to back, and they're still 4-0. I mean, they're winning. So I think the Vikings are the best team in the NFC, even if the odds don't show it. Like, they're tied with the Eagles, and they're a million times better than the Eagles. Like, I don't care what you say. The Eagles are a mess. They're not going to get better. And I think they're better than the Lions right now, too. The Lions, they have 0 defense. I mean, Geno looked great, but it's Geno Smith. And, that game could have been 50-50, basically, if they don't get a couple good calls going their way. But anyways, to the game, Minnesota 2.5 versus the Jets on a neutral field. our friend Mike says it's like the trap game of all trap games for the Vikings. I don't believe it. I think that's impossible. Like, they're going to London. It's the Sam Darnold revenge tour game against the Jets. The Jets defense looks good, but the Jets aren't a good team. And I think a lot of it, as much as I'd love to just sit here and bash Aaron Rodgers, who I don't think is very good anymore. He's not terrible, but he got beat by Bo Nix at home. 50% of that's on Rodgers, but the other 50% is on the coaching staff. I don't know what they're doing there. They're just playing for field goals and letting their defense kind of hang out. The Vikings shouldn't have a problem putting up points. They are very well balanced at this point. Like, Aaron Jones is doing very well. They have two absolutely stud receivers. Addison's like really, there's a big question coming out of last year. Like, can Addison do it again? Well, I think Addison has proven that he's a legit number one receiver on a team with, I would say, the number one receiver in all of football. So you have two absolute studs there. So you can't possibly double team them both. You're going to make it work. And again, they're running with Aaron Jones. So they're going to put up their points against the Jets. The question is, can the Jets put up points against them? And I think until the Jets actually put up points against anybody, I don't see it. And the defense is so amazingly strong. I cannot stop repeating this. Like, they've given up the least amount of points in the NFC. There's a couple AFC teams that have, but they've been playing crappy teams. Again, the Vikings have played pretty good offenses. The Giants look terrible week one, but they've been putting up points. The Niners, again, probably best team in the NFC other than right now. And then, the Packers playoff team in Houston, who puts up a lot of points as well. So that defense is legit. And I don't see how the Jets are going to put up enough points. So I love the 2.5. I think the Vikings come out of there 5-0.
Okay, Woodley. All right. So your pick is Vikings -2.5 in London. Okay, we're going to go to Ryan for his comments. I really want to hear what Ryan has to say about this because I have a strong opinion. Ryan, what do you think?
Well, first of all, the Vikings are also my number one pick of the week. So me and Woodley are on the same page here, and I love the Vikings as well. And first of all, I will say that I disagree with Phil, and I feel even stronger than Woodley does. I believe that I am convinced now, after watching 4 games and watching a lot of games this season, that the Vikings are the best team in the NFL. They're the most well-rounded team. I think their defense is great. I think they have a ton of talent on offense. They're just moving the ball so fluidly. Darnold's playing great as a game manager. He's not just a game manager. He's a good quarterback. I just think they're like probably the least flawed team in the NFL. If the Niners are healthy, maybe they'd be less flawed. But other than that, I think the Vikings are the number one most complete team in the NFL. And I just can't believe that the best team in the NFL, in my opinion, is only -2.5 on a neutral field against, in my opinion, a bottom 10 team in the NFL who only scored 9 points against the lowly Broncos. People kind of get high on the Jets and kind of get excited, and sometimes that might affect the line in Vegas because it's New York, it's Aaron Rodgers, but what has that franchise accomplished? Not much, right? And look what they've done this season. They played the 49ers, very good team, didn't come close, lost that game. They play the Titans, Patriots, Broncos, which you could argue are the 3 worst teams in the NFL. Certainly they're 3 of the bottom 10. I think that's pretty unanimous. And they won 2 of those games, one of them barely, and they lost one to the Broncos at home, scoring only 9 points. So they've done nothing impressive over the last 3 games. They've done nothing impressive all season. Now you're going and playing, arguably, my opinion, the best team in the NFL, only 2.5-point favorites. I love the Vikings. And here's the statistical reasons why, on top of my heart reason why. The Jets 4 games. They've played 3 of the bottom 4 teams in the NFL in passing yards. 3 of the worst 4 teams in passing yards they've played against those teams. They won 2 of those games, and they lost 1 against the Broncos, okay? They got blown out by a team who is the Niners, that is first in pass yards per attempt. So the one team they played who is a great passing team, they got destroyed by. Now they're playing the number 2 team in the NFL in pass yards per attempt, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings defense will destroy the Jets team that scored 9 points against the Broncos. They're tied for the most interceptions in the league. They have the most sacks. They've allowed the fewest rushing touchdowns. They've allowed the second fewest rushing yards. This is the most complete defense in the NFL. On top of that, the Vikings so far this season, +63 against the spread. The Jets are -1. You're talking about a team that's amazing against the spread against a team that's been very mediocre. Give me the Vikings. I'm hammering them.
Okay. So I'm going to say this. I can't figure out if this is a superhero team up. You got Woodley and Ryan together. Are they two superheroes or are they two teenage mutant ninja turtles?
I love the Ninja Turtles.
Anyway, they're on the same team. Cantu, what do you make of this pick? Whose
I
side do
love
you
the
like?
Vikings. Absolutely love the Vikings. They've talked a lot about the Vikings. I'm gonna start with why I don't like the Jets. Boomer Esiason came out today and was talking about how, from being on the sideline in his pro career, how he knows that there is a dysfunction, how Aaron Rodgers does not respect Robert Saleh. And I couldn't agree more with it. I could see it as they play all game. I could see Rodgers always shooting him looks, very disrespectful tones, you can just see it all over the place. And I think this is going to really I think just starting this week is now, we heard it a little week 1, a little week 2, a little week 3. Week 4 is now where the grumblings, now they just have a terrible loss against Denver last week. I can see this really spiraling out of control and the Jets really going on a big losing streak. I think the locker room's going to start to be divided as the Jets have a very good defense. I don't think anybody will dispute that. The Jets have a good defense and they kind of think they're running the show and that the Jets just need to be okay on offense. They don't need to be great. Just if they're okay, they're going to win a lot of games. They're a 10-win team. I just don't know that the Jets are going to keep going on offense. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, talking about the Vikings, I think one of the best things that happened to the Vikings, they got 28-0, and I thought they were going to win. There was a time before that muffed punt return where the returner tries to catch the ball like this, and somehow it turns into a touchdown the other way. That turned the game around because I think they were going to blow them out 49-3, or it was going to really get out of hand. I think that's the best thing. What happened to the Vikings is barely winning 31-29, where it looks like an accidental win. Their confidence isn't too high. From that point on, they got outplayed. And for that reason, I love the Vikings.
Okay, interesting. I was going to sit here and I was going to go for the Jets in this. I saw your picks and I'm like, yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers. He needs a win. I looked at the Jets schedule and they do have a really good defense for sure. So I was going to go. It's very interesting because you can be influenced by people, and listening to the three of you talk about the stats, talk about the teams, I'm actually going to switch my pick and I'm going to go with the Vikings. But I want to tell you why I was against them, because I was against them. It's really hard to go 5-0. The game's in London and the Jets need a win. Those are kind of the reasons why I was going to go against. But listen to you guys talk about stats guy Ryan Woodley, who's a freaking homer. You can, half of what he says you can throw out the window. And that
But he's been right.
But he's been right. All right, I'm going to do it. It's a unanimous pick. Okay, now I'm not going to Ryan for his pick of the week because he's already told us his pick of the week. So that's 2 guys already and a unanimous pick. We really seem to like the Vikings on this. And now we're going to go to Cantu. Whenever you're ready, we're going to go to you for your number 1 pick.
This is not a homer pick. And I'm going to tell you why, because we're going to go over all the great things that we watched last night. Seahawks -6 against the Giants. I am not a Giants fan. And yes, the Giants played good. I was more disappointed. I guess they played good against the Cowboys. I wasn't really a fan of either team. The Giants are really good at chewing up 3 or 4 yards, 3, 4, 5 yards of play and somehow getting a first down. They're very, let me actually backtrack a little bit. Let's just start with why the Giants aren't going to be able to keep up with Seattle. Geno Smith, out of his mind, he is throwing missiles. I mean, when he throws, he's throwing like the ball about as hard as Brett Favre in his prime. And the receivers are catching him because every time.
No, don't compare him to Brett Favre.
No,
continue.
I said he's throwing the ball as hard. I didn't say he's Brett Favre. How hard is he throwing the ball? Have you guys not been watching? I mean, I'm scared everything's going to get picked, but somehow the Seattle receivers have pretty good hands to be catching these balls. If they didn't have great hands, this would be a disaster. Also, I was reading a stat where the Seahawks had a bottom 2 line coming into last week. But bottom 2 line, either Geno's getting the ball off and doing that well, because I don't quite know how they measure the offensive line stats. Kenneth Walker is running through, not even just Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet are just running through defenses. They both look so good on the running the ball. Also on the defensive end, they were missing when they played last night. they were missing their 4 defensive linemen. It's pretty hard to sit there and play without the 4. From what I've read, 3 of them are supposed to come right back and supposed to be back this week. It's only Tuesday when we do this pod, so I'm not positive on that. But right now, it's looking like they're all going to be, or most of the defense is going to be back. The defense is playing really out of their minds. Also, that was one of the best losses I've ever seen last night with Seattle. They move the ball at will. In a league now that where teams can barely move on offense, I have confidence that the Seahawks get a touchdown in almost any drive. And also one stat from last night I want to throw out that's amazing. The Seahawks had 38 first downs in a loss. That's the most first downs in a loss all time.
Wow.
And they outgained them by almost 150 yards.
Okay, Ryan, we're coming to you on this pick. Okay, so basically the pick is 6.5, I think. I don't know.
It's -6 right now everywhere.
-6. So Seattle's hosting the Giants. Ryan, what do you make of this pick?
I like it. I'm with Cantu on this. I like Seattle this week. I know that, I liked the Giants last week, and they did cover against the Cowboys. They had a strong emotional performance where they hung in there and almost pulled out a win against the Cowboys. But now they're going on the road, and they're going to Seattle. And, Seattle's coming off their first loss, but this is not a bad loss. This is not any loss that they should feel ashamed about, right? They went at Detroit, a team that is probably a top 5 team in the NFL, definitely a top 5 offense. And Seattle really went toe-to-toe for the most part. They held their own. They scored a lot of points. Geno was great. They had Kenneth Walker back. They're a different team when Kenneth Walker is there and healthy. He had 3 touchdowns. And, as long as Kenneth Walker is playing, then I like Seattle as a playoff caliber team. They're a very good team at home. And, now they're playing against a Giants team that doesn't have an amazing defense. And I think Seattle is going to continue the momentum on offense, and they're going to score a lot of points and win this game easily.
Woodley, what do you make of this pick?
I will actually be at this game.
No, you won't. You're going to Seattle?
My brother and his wife just had a baby a few weeks ago, so I'm gonna go see him out in Seattle. We're all gonna go. The whole family's gonna go, and then I'll be in Vegas next week for G2E. But anyone wants to come beat me up for my picks if they're wrong. I mentioned this a few podcasts ago because Cantu was high on Seattle. I think they're like 6.5 over Denver, and they sat there and said like they don't cover these games. And like looking back, it was like the Seahawks are like below like 30% like over the last 3 or 4 years for covering games where they're like a big favorite, like 5 points or more. I think this is just like another classic example of it. I don't know what it is with them. They just always end up in like these close games. I know there's a new coaching staff, new attitude. There are a lot of questions on defense. That defense looked really bad last night. I mean, they're missing a lot of players. I don't take a lot of faith in Cantu's. Like, I think they'll all be back this week. Like, nobody knows, right? Like, the NFL teams only they're out 1 week. They don't have to say anything until I think like Wednesday or Thursday this week. So this isn't like a waffle as much as it's like, I like the Giants right now. And I probably would still take them unless like all those guys from Seattle comes back, even though I'd like the Giants. I like the Giants in this spot. I don't think they're going to win outright, but 6 is a lot of points. And, the Giants are, here's the thing, like Neighbors is a star. I mean, this kid,
isn't he out with a concussion?
Yeah, he had a concussion, but it looks like he is possibly okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to do the ultimate waffle Woodley on this. Like, I'm going to take the Giants. I'm going to wait until later this week to actually put money on it because it's like, you're an idiot if you do it right now. Like, there's too many injury concerns. And this, don't let Mike see this because Mike's going to be like, this is why you don't do a Tuesday show.
No, I got to say, Woodley, that's very fair. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just got saying he's the only weapon they have. If he plays, I like the Giants, right? Like, the thing about Neighbors is he's already a star. Like, they know that they're throwing to him. They have no one else to throw to, and he's still putting up like 8 to 12 catches a week. Jones is looking good. Like, the Giants have really responded well, even though they've lost like a couple close games. Like, they could have won that Dallas game. They should have won that Washington game. Seattle's like 3-1. They look pretty good, but like the cracks begin to show. So I like it. caveat, if Neighbors is playing, no matter what, I like the Giants to cover. If he's not, then it becomes a no-brainer. But I think Neighbors is going to play.
Okay, all right. I'm
According
going to
to
weigh in on
Feldman.
that, and then I'm going to give you my pick. So, yeah, I like Seattle as well. So Woodley's kind of out on his own on this one, but I don't love them. I just like them. They did look amazing, and we're all liable to have some recency bias. And I have recency bias big time because they really did look good. They moved the ball well. Plus, we all know Seattle is the most difficult place to play. It's the loudest. It's all the way in the Pacific Northwest. It's a long ways to go. And so teams have traditionally not fared well there. So I'm Seahawks by a little bit. Okay, my pick of the week. Here we go. I'm taking the Ravens at Cincinnati -2.5. Boy, oh boy, this is me saying the Ravens are 2-2. They're the best team in the league. They have an amazing King Henry, who I just would not have believed it until I actually saw it. Would I believe that he'd gash like he gashed? Yes. But would I believe that on the first play from scrimmage, he would go 75 or 80 yards and they couldn't catch him? These safeties couldn't catch him? I would not have believed it. Henry must be in the best shape of his life. I just think that they're a juggernaut. And the Ravens are 2-2. They lost their first two games. I think they're still hungry. Yes, the game is in Cincinnati, but I'm going at Woodley has his hands crossed like this. That means he probably doesn't like the pick. But I'm going to Cantu first on this because I know that Cantu's second pick is the Bengals.
I love Cincinnati in this game. It's my number 2 overall pick. But one thing I wanted to say first, I'm going to give the Ravens some credit, is on the King Henry touchdown where it was like 75 or 80 yards. He's 30 years old. You want to talk about a lot of miles on him? That was the third fastest time anyone's been clocked in the NFL this year was on that run. I agree with you, Phil. He is in great shape, and that's a good sign for the Ravens. So there's the props I'm going to show for the Ravens. Now, let's go to the Bengals. I love the Bengals. This is the ultimate trap game. The Ravens played, when you say ultimate classic trap, this is it. Ravens won 35-10. Game wasn't close. Ravens looked amazing. Let's say all the great things. And we know that in the NFL, this is a week-to-week league. Their egos are going to be a bit inflated. I love Cincinnati in this ultimate trap game of it. I don't know what it is about the NFL where the underdog team comes and looks great the next week. The Bengals played the Panthers. They looked good last week. It was a solid win. Nothing to write home about. You just beat the Panthers. No one really cares. Coming at home, Cincinnati's got to start winning and stealing games that, were supposed to be tough or they could afford to lose because they started 0-3. They can't afford to lose this one. The Bengals have been known to slow start. This is like 2-3 years in a row now that really slow starts. I feel like they're rolling, they're clicking. I love Joe Burrow. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. I'm a big Bengals fan. I think they're finally cooking and rolling. I love the Bengals.
Woodley, what do you make of this pick? Cantu and I are opposite sides of the fence here. While you guys are talking, I'm trying to look up, I know they gave up a huge amount of yards to Washington, but Woodley, what do you make of this? I'll check the other stats as we talk.
It's like so easy. I see where everyone wants to go Ravens here, but I think it's really, really, really close. I think, again, Cincy is still in kind of like must win. This game for Cincy makes or breaks their season, right? They win this game, all of a sudden they're back in the division hunt. Everything's fine. I don't know what the playoff odds are right now, but let's just say they're 30% right now to make it. If they win this game, I think they're above 50%. I think they lose this game, they're below 20%. It's a big game for them. As Mike would say, it's their Super Mike the
mouth Matiso. It's their Super Bowl. It's their Super Bowl.
I know both teams look really good this past week. I mean, the Ravens look great. The Bills just completely no-show that game. I mean, the Ravens deserve it, and King Henry had that run. But when he made that run, I mean, he should have not. They showed the odds of him actually going for a touchdown on that. After a certain point, was almost 0. And the Bills just totally screwed that game up. And once they got down, they gave up. I mean, let's call it what it is. They gave up. And I said this on the podcast last week. Josh Allen's been playing a freaking superhero MVP, and I think he kind of took it easy, and that's fine. It's the NFL. It's a long season. That's not going to happen in this case. If the Bengals get down 14 early, the Bengals are going to be clawing for their life. They're going to be throwing everything out there. These two are rival teams. You know, I like the Bengals 2.5. I mean, if it was 3, it'd be like the bet of the year, in my opinion. But I like the Bengals.
Okay.
2.5.
Let me just, I have to interject. I looked it up. The last 2 games against the Panthers and the Washington Commanders, they gave up 400 yards, this defense, average 375 and 425. Does not speak well about the Cincinnati defense. Ryan, what's your take? Is the Mike Mattis Super Bowl in week 4 for Cincinnati?
So
Week 5.
Week 5, yeah.
Thanks.
So I will say that I agree that the Bengals kind of have to win this game, or at least they're going to view it that way, right? It's a division game. It's important. They're off to a slow start. You know, they're at home. This is definitely a very, very important game. But it's also an important game for the Ravens, right? The Ravens don't want to start 2-3. This is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. You know, you look at the Ravens' next 2 games after this. They're playing the Commanders, decent team. They're playing the Bucs, decent team. You know, that they don't want to start 2-3. The Bengals, after this game, they have the Giants and the Browns and then 2 home games. So even if the Bengals lose this game, they still could easily be 4-5 after 9 games, which puts them in decent position to make the playoffs. I will say that just like looking at each team individually, the Ravens are playing great this season. They have 1 game that was an anomaly probably against the Raiders where they just couldn't finish it and they didn't play amazingly. The Chiefs game, they played great. Cowboys game, they played great. Bills game, they played great. This Ravens team is a top 5 team, in my opinion. They are a Super Bowl contender. The Bengals, on the other hand, they did nothing impressive last week. They beat the Panthers. Great. They lost to the Commanders. Okay. They lost to the Chiefs by 1 point. That's their most impressive performance they've had this year. And they lost to the Patriots. They have done nothing to impress me yet to think that they could beat a top 5 team, even if they need this win. They're not the same Bengals offense from a few years ago that were Super Bowl contenders. I like the Ravens in this game.
This is the score here. Ryan and I like the Ravens. Okay. Cantu in fact, I love the Ravens. Cantu loves as his number 2 pick Cincinnati, and Woodley is waffling right in the middle.
I do want to say one more thing. There's kind of an interesting line because the Bengals are plus 2.5, plus 100 everywhere. I personally would buy the half point to go to 3. Yeah, you're going to lay the 20 cents juice. I don't know. That's what I would do.
Cantu, thank you for wasting 20 seconds of our time and moving a line.
It's 2.5.
On the team you.
It's 2.5 plus
on the
100.
team
You guys didn't mention that you're laying 2.5 minus 120. You got to lay that in there that you're laying double juice everywhere.
I will defend Cantu and say this: we do put the show out Tuesday at noon, so we're a little bit the lines move a lot from the time we do it. Now, guys, listen, we're going to come with. We heard Cantu's number 2 pick Bengals, and now we're going to come with Woodley's number 2 pick, which I almost picked myself. I can't believe you're picking Kansas City -5. That's a Monday night game. They're hosting the Saints. I can't believe you're going to pick it. You hate the Kelce multiverse. What are you doing, Woodley?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of teased this last week when I said someone's going to have to pick KC, so we actually talk about what's going on there. You know, I continue to go back to this thing where I've been watching them play and they're very boring to watch and very safe, but I'm now triple convinced that, again, they're just going through the motions in the regular season. They're lined up for number 1 seed. All they really care about is winning the division and getting at least 1 home game. I think they'd prefer a top 1 or 2, but they're not going to tip their hand on their plays. They're not going to rush guys back from injury. They're just going to do it, right? They're going to win this division. There's zero doubt in my mind. I don't know what the odds are, but if you can get 1 to 10, or I would lay 10,000 to win 1,000. They're not losing this, barring
that was my biggest preseason bet, by the way, is I bet Chiefs to win the division.
What
it was
minus
it was
300?
a little less than 300 to start the season, I believe.
Yeah, I mean it's great, but you look now, there's no one's going to catch them, right? So they're being very plain Jane, and it's fine, it's by design, all that. And then you're like, well, why are you picking the Chiefs? Well, I think there's a lot going in here, right? They're the Monday night game. There's a lot of talk about the Chiefs. This is one of the top 2 or 3 talking points of the week. One is the Vikings, one is the Chiefs, one's the Ravens. And there's probably one more that we're forgetting. going into Monday, like there's only one Monday night game too. So like there's gonna be so much talk. Are the Chiefs okay? Are the Chiefs okay? Oh my God, they have no weapons left. They have no weapons left. Kelce, a lot of people are hating him on a week. He actually put up a good game there. Pat Mahomes proven time and time again. It doesn't matter who is out there. Like this guy's like made McCole Hardman look like a NFL player, right? And nobody else has been able to do that. So Hardman might be out there again at this point, and he might catch like 6 balls and 2 touchdowns for all we know. It's -5. Preseason was like -8. I know the Chiefs look worse than maybe people thought, and the Saints look a little bit better. I don't think they look 3 points better. I think the Chiefs have hurt enough, and I think the Chiefs could like absolutely roll in this game. I'll be at Circa Sports watching it at some G2E party. It's gonna be cool. Maybe rooting on them hard. 5, I love it. It's
okay.
There's not a lot of science. They're gonna come out and crush because everybody's been on them, and the Chiefs are gonna put the rest of the league on notice.
They
now.
are the team that's 4-0 that everyone's saying, what's wrong with them? It's unbelievable. They're 4-0, and they are playing down to their opponents for sure. I love this pick. I almost made this my pick. My number 2 pick was I almost made it my number 2 pick. So I'm with you. I think Taylor Swift does show up to this game. I think that's just going to be hyped. I think they're going to have record people watching this game, and they're going to be ready to roll, whether they win or not. I think they will, and I think they're going to roll. But sometimes they disappoint. Now we're going to go to Technology Challenge Cantu. We have Contrarian Cantu and Technology Challenge Cantu. Cantu, we know you can't speak. Give us a thumbs up if you like the Chiefs. -5. Oh, he's on the other side. Okay, so we're not going to hear his take because his Technology Challenge. All right, we're going to go instead to Ryan. Ryan, what do you make of this pick?
In general, I love the Chiefs. They're just one of my favorite teams to watch. I think that, people are hating them too much, even though they're 4-0. I talked about it earlier, but I'm actually going to go Saints in this game. I don't love it. It's not like a game that I'm, it's not one of my picks of the week or anything like that. But if I have to pick a side, I'm going to go Saints here. The Chiefs, all 4 of their games have been within 7 points this season, and they're all decent teams that they played. But the Saints are also a decent team. They are right in line with teams like the Chargers, Falcons, not quite the Ravens, but, they're a good team. They're possibly a playoff team. And so this is no easy game for the Chiefs. They have one of the best offenses in the league. And, the Chiefs are now without Rice, their top receiver. And so, Pacheco's still hurt and they're down a little bit. They might be looking forward to the game after that, which is at San Fran, which is a rematch of the Super Bowl. That's a huge game for the Chiefs. They've got that circled on their calendar. And so possibly there's some look ahead stuff. They look past the Saints a little bit. You look at the Saints, like what they've done this season. They blew out the Panthers. They blew out at Dallas, which was like a pretty impressive result. They lost by a field goal against the Eagles in a game that they could have easily won. And they lost by 2 at the Falcons in a game they could have easily won. And the Eagles and the Falcons are 2 pretty decent teams. So, the Chiefs or the Saints have had no bad performances this year. I think they're going to go and make this a game in Kansas City. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pull out a win.
Woodley, before you start, Woodley, let me just say this. This is an anomaly for our WeWin Sports podcast because Ryan took an underdog and Woodley took a favorite. So you have like one guy never takes an underdog, one guy never takes a favorite. So, all right, Woodley, one last comment about this, and then we're going to go to Ryan for his number 2 pick.
So these are some numbers for Ryan.
Stats, guys.
He's like the stats. Right? The Chiefs are 8-1-1 on primetime over the last few years when playing primetime at home. The Chiefs have the biggest tailgating. They know tailgating, right? Like great barbecue, great beer. The Midwesterners can drink. Phil can attest to that. He's a Midwestern guy. That place Arrowhead is rocking on a primetime Monday night game. Everybody is be rocking there, right? So that's one thing. Number 2, I don't know how relevant it is to this. They still covered last week. The line got to 6.5, and they covered versus the Chargers, no matter how bad they look. There's a stat out there. When the Chiefs are trailing by exactly 10 points to an opponent, or when Mahomes is trailing by 10 points to an opponent, exactly 10 points, he is 12-0. 12-0. Wow. So every time they've ever been down 10 points a game, they've won that game. So like I think there's 2 Super Bowls in there as well. And like, so what does it say? Like the Chiefs are never, ever out of it. And if the Chiefs get out to a lead early, this one could be an absolute rout. So we're on the, it is a bizarro kind of switch on this one.
Bizarro switch. Now, I would go to Ryan. I'm going to go to Ryan for his number 2 pick, but we don't have to discuss it. Danny, just put his pick on the board. Ryan is Vikings -3.
That was my number 1
London
pick.
versus.
That was my number 1
Say
pick.
it again.
That was my number 1 pick. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My
What's
number
your
2 pick is Pittsburgh against Dallas.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So my number 2 pick is the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Cowboys. You know, this Cowboys team, I am not impressed by them. I've been down on them all season. You look at what they've done so far. They barely beat the Giants. They were getting blown out by the Ravens until the fourth quarter. They got blown out by the Saints, and they beat the Browns, who might be possibly the worst team in the NFL, if not one of the worst teams in the NFL. You know, this Cowboys defense, actually, let me get the Cowboys offense first. The Cowboys offense, they cannot run the ball. They're relying on Dak and CD to do everything. Like, fewest rush yards in the entire NFL. They don't have fewest rush yards in the NFL. They don't have a single run this season yet over 12 yards. That's their longest run. Okay. And you're playing against a Steelers defense who's allowed the 3rd fewest rushing yards in the NFL. We know this is a great Steelers defense. This Steelers defense, you know, they've won 5 straight, including 3-0 this season when their opponent has under 100 rushing yards. The Cowboys just aren't producing in the run game. This Cowboys team is 7-20 since 2020 when they have under 100 rush yards in a game. And I don't see that changing against an elite Steelers defense. The Cowboys haven't covered a game in their last 3 games. They only covered in week 1 against the lowly Browns. Steelers 3-1 against the spread this season. The only team they didn't cover against was the Colts last week by half a point. And Micah Parsons is out for the Cowboys, their best defensive player. So I love the Steelers in this game. That's my number 2 pick.
Okay. I can tell you, I can speak for Cantu. He doesn't have to do the thumbs up. We know he loves Pittsburgh. That was almost his pick. He changed it last minute. So Cantu, just do your thumbs up just so we can make fun of technology challenge Cantu. Okay. I also love the Steelers. I did a little bit of research after you guys made these picks, and I was just shocked. The Cowboys just look, they beat the Giants. I don't understand. You see the Dallas Cowboys and they come marching out in their uniforms, America's team. And you're like, wow, they score 40, 50 points in the first game, and you're like, they're so good, but they haven't been so good. It's their 2nd road game in a row on the East Coast here. And Pittsburgh's defense has been smash mouth. They are undoubtedly, I think unanimously would say, the number 1 defense in the league is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're at home. They're coming off a loss. Cowboys are coming off a win. I love the Steelers. Almost made that my pick of the week. And now we're going to come to David Woodley. What do you make of this pick? Okay. We have Dallas at the Steelers. Steelers are -2.5. Dallas is +2.5.
Yeah, it feels like a repeat of last week. No, it's not. Playing the Steelers this week isn't a squares. What was last week? I called the Steelers like the square play of like the week, and it certainly was. I like Dallas here +2.5. I don't think Dallas should be getting any points here. I think again, like if Steelers win, I keep coming back to this. It's going to be like a really good score. It's going to be 16-14, 10-9, whatever. The Steelers have a great D, but they don't have. I don't believe that offense yet, right? Dallas, they ran the ball better. Now that they're running to Rico and stuff like that. I don't think the hot seat. The Cowboys, like everyone is on the hot seat there, with the exception of
How
Dak,
can you support Zimmer? You hate
CD.
Zimmer, Woodley.
I do. I do. And they could lose this game. Like they could very well lose this game, but I like them. I think they, at the very least, they keep it close. I think they win it. I mean, listen, they won that game against the Giants. They didn't look great, but they have players on that team. They will be able to score against the Steelers. Like CeeDee Lamb and Dak are very good players. I don't think the Steelers can score against anybody. I don't think Dallas's defense is very great.
Do you think Parsons being out is going to affect them?
It certainly will, but again, like I don't think the Steelers can score against anybody, so I don't think it matters. Like
they just have to not make mistakes, though. Like this is a team that doesn't score 40 points a game, but if they don't make mistakes, then they can manage the game. And being up by 7, being up by 4 is enough for the Steelers, right? As long as they don't turn the ball over because of that defense. I will say, let's just point it out because we don't talk a ton about previous week that much. That I just want to point out that Woodley and Cantu last week said the Cowboys are going to win. It's not even going to be close. They're going to win 35-10. They're going to destroy the Giants. It's going to be a blowout. And then look what they did. They barely hung on to that game, but won by 5. This Cowboys team does not.
It was a
This
push.
Cowboys team.
It was a push.
What do you mean? The
was
line
a
was
push.
5.5
It was a
or
5-point
5.5 or
spread.
6 is what we had at that point in the week.
Yeah, when we bet it,
Yeah.
when
I
we
had
bet
6.
it,
I got 6.
you got to give credit for the win here, Woodley. You can't
And
come
even
later.
if it was a push, that's not. You guys said the Cowboys are going to blow them out. It's not going to be close. I'm just pointing out that like the Cowboys, not just by you guys, but are overrated by a lot of people, and a lot of times that line gets inflated because they're America's team. Everyone loves Dallas. Like, this is not a Super Bowl contending Dallas team. We haven't seen it on either side of the ball yet this season. And now they're going against a team that's very confident, that is arguably the best defense in the league. And, you know, is it possible they win the game? Obviously, they could win the game in a close game. But, like, I just think that Pittsburgh's the better team, and they're at home. So I love the Steelers here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dallas, they maybe have like one of the best field goal kickers in the game. He missed like a chip shot. Otherwise, like they win by 8 or whatever. It is whatever. Again, it comes down to this game, right? And I think part of last week is the Giants looked better than people thought, and whatever, it goes this week. But I don't think that Steelers can score, and I think Dallas can score. So I think it's very simple in my mind on that one, and we'll see who's wrong. This feels like when the Steelers, everyone's talking about like, they were talking about the Vikings being a fraudulent like 3-0. Like the Steelers were a fraudulent 3-0. Like Justin Fields, like the teams are figuring him out like they always do. This is going to end one way, and it's going to be with the Steelers winning like 9 games and losing 8 games. They're not a good team. It's a good defense, but
for
no
what
offense.
it's worth, the Chargers have a very good defense, in my opinion. And the Steelers scored more points against the Chargers than the Chiefs did. So, I mean, again, if you have a great defense, you don't have to score a ton of points. That's my take.
But doesn't Justin Fields like lead? Didn't he like lead the league by far in like fumbles last year and like the year before? So like this idea that they're going to protect.
You've said it. You've said
like,
it many times. You know, you can't change it based on what the subject is. Like last season doesn't matter that much. It's about this season. He's in a new situation. The Steelers are not the Bears. Like, look at how this team is performing. Look at how he is doing with this team. It's not the Bears. Caleb Williams looks terrible in the Bears too. Doesn't mean that he'd be terrible.
But a fumble is a fumble. Like a fumble is something that players control. I understand. What you're saying.
Not necessarily. It has a lot to do with protection too, right? The Bears have a terrible offensive line.
He fumbles.
The Bears have a terrible offensive line.
He fumbles when he's running.
Okay, well,
he fumbles all the time.
How's he doing this season?
He has 4 fumbles already this year. He has 1 each game, so you know he's on pace.
So
for
do you
18.
think that juggernaut Cowboys defense is gonna force turnover?
Do you think recovering fumbles is a skill, or do you think
recovering fumbles is luck? You're saying recovering?
Okay, so like they've been recovering.
Losing
okay,
fumbles,
you guys. Okay,
but he's been
losing
fumbling.
fumbles.
Okay,
Yeah. You agree with me,
sometimes
right?
I have to pry Ryan and Woodley away. But I love their whole conversation about this. Now, Danny, get ready for Phil's second pick. I'm going Washington. Okay, at home. And I want you to post, Danny, go ahead and post all 4 picks right now. And I've got the Commanders at home against Cleveland. Cleveland has shown me nothing. I'm very disappointed. I thought Cleveland had a great defense. I thought Watson would be a little bit less than serviceable, but I thought at least he would be a decent game manager. That hasn't really matured. Washington has been the juggernaut of juggernauts almost. I mean, I'd give that to the Ravens. But Washington, it's unbelievable. No one can stop them. It's unbelievable. Look at these stats. Look at how high. I mean, Jaden has completed 82% of his passes. It's crazy. So I'm going Washington at home, -3.5, hosting Cleveland, and I'm going to go to Woodley for this. Woodley.
The juggernaut of all, I don't know how you say the juggernaut of all juggernauts. They've given up like the second most points in the NFC. The Washington has 0 defense. They have
Dude,
Daniels and, like,
did they score like 22 out of 24 drives?
That's not sustainable.
That's a juggernaut,
I mean, it's great.
bro.
It's a hell of a run. It's not sustainable though.
I
So,
would
like,
use the word
this idea
juggernaut,
that
but go ahead.
it's a good run. I mean, it's a good run, but listen, the NFL has like, I think Daniels he's a really good quarterback and needs to be a good quarterback for a while, but like they always, and one of them even have a TD, and that's a whole other problem. Thank you, Cantu. Cantu's a great producer when he can't talk. He's just feeding us info. I'm going to take the Browns in this one. Like, they still have a pretty good defense. Yeah, if Washington only punts one time, like Washington will win and cover with ease. I will give you that, Phil. I think the Browns will stop them a bit. Again, this is like one of those scenarios where it is a bit must win. Like I think I'm really impressed with Washington. But that defense is terrible, and like they can't possibly continue to go this many times without punting. I mean, this is not the greatest show on turf, and even those guys didn't have like a run like this. Cleveland has a good defense. I think they'll figure it out a bit. 3.5 is a lot of points in the NFL.
Okay.
It is must win for them. They may fire the coach. Like if they lose this game, like they may fire the coach, and like Watson's career may be over. Like if they go out and lose big, it's over.
Are you trying to say
those guys.
this is Cleveland's Super Bowl, Woodley?
It very much is. It very much is. And Washington, if Washington could have a letdown,
Imagine a
like you said,
game
we're
against
letdown,
Washington
but,
being
like,
your Super
letdown
Bowl.
spot. Yeah.
Well, Mike Mattis, who we love, and he's a part of our group texting, likes to say it's their Super Bowl, even though it's week 5.
I think Cantu says that too. I think Cantu said that Washington State's Super Bowl was against Boise State and they got blown out.
How'd that work out?
Cantu can't even respond.
Cantu, I guess we'll go to you real quick. All right, thumbs down if you like Washington. Thumbs.
No. Wait.
You
no,
like
no.
Washington?
No, he got confused. Yeah, thumbs up if you like Washington, Cantu.
Thumbs up.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
Yeah,
my
you
fault.
confused.
Cantu's on my side.
Yeah.
We got 2 on Washington.
Yeah.
Woodley is the other direction. Danny posted all 4 of our second picks off to Ryan. What do you think, Ryan? I mean, I'm very interested in your take on this.
Yeah, so my hunch is that I like Washington in this game. I think that the Commanders have been very solid and impressive so far. The Browns have been the opposite of that. The Browns were supposed to have a pretty good defense. I think they have a decent defense. I don't think they have a great defense. You know, they gave up 33 against the Cowboys, and then like their last 3 games, yeah, they only gave up an average of 20 a game, but it was against 3 very, very lowly, at best, mediocre teams, Jags, Giants, and Raiders. The Commanders have been one of the better offenses in the NFL so far, as you said, especially the last 2 weeks, scoring 38-42 against the Bengals and Cardinals. Jaden Daniels off to a hot start. I did say before week 1 that Jaden Daniels would be the best rookie quarterback in the league. I think that's been not even close so far. He's, like you said, Phil, he has...
Wait, you said he would be the best rookie quarterback in the league?
Yeah, go back to our first podcast. I said Jaden Daniels will be the best rookie quarterback in this class.
Great call.
And he's completed 82% of his completions, as you said, so far. That is number 1 all-time in any player's first 4 games of their career for anyone that's had at least 100 pass attempts. Number 1 all-time. The second highest, 70%. He's 82. It's not even close. Most accurate rookie start we've ever had in first 4 games. That means something. I think this offense is clicking. And, you know, the only thing that scares me in this game is, why is the line so close? Does Vegas know something that we don't know, right? Is Washington not as good as we think they are? Is Cleveland better than we think they are? You know, maybe Woodley's right, because that Vegas stuff scares me, because if I had to guess without looking, I would have thought the line would be a little higher. But I'm still going to go with my hunch here. I'm going to go with Washington. I just think they're a much, much better team.
Woodley, one last word on this, or you want me to? I'm ready to go right to the Survivor stuff.
Most people realize you can't keep up like a 95% like scoring rate in the NFL on offense. So I think that answers your question, like why they're not some massive favorite. Like they will have to punt. And then the big question there is, it's like, can their defense get enough stops? Because eventually they're going to stop scoring.
Okay. Folks, we bought 250 Survivor pool picks at splashsports.com. 1 million guaranteed pool for $100 a piece. That's $25,000 on Survivor picks. Cantu Technology, Challenge Cantu blew $10,000 worth, 100 picks. Woo! Woodley is managing 150 picks that we own. The WeWin Sports Podcast owns. Right now, we have $70,000 worth of picks. And with 95% of the picks in the league already gone, Woodley still has 31 picks left. That's pretty amazing. Woodley, who did you fade this week to protect so many picks?
We 2 quick things. There's 509 alive, and we have 32 of them. Our equity is actually closer to like 90 plus, just because
90,000. Did you hear that, Ryan?
The teams we haven't used, it might be more. I gotta I don't want to also hype us up too much either, right?
It's early.
If you're 10 to 1, you still lose. At least 9 of those times. It was a relatively good week. We had 41. We're left with 32. Completely faded the Jets, which were super popular. I think the Jets were the second most favorite team. We did fade Houston as well, and they almost lost. That was a bummer. But the Jets were heavy. Like everybody that knocked out, like 70% or more the Jets, right? The Jets looked pretty good there against the Broncos. I think I sat in here last week and I said like the Jets looked really good. And I had told Phil this too, like later on. I was like dove into like some numbers and like the Broncos like are top 5 in like pass protection and like pass rush and like rush defense. Like they were top 5 in a lot of things. And my whole thing was like, if Bo Nix can do anything, like they're going to keep that Jets one close. Them winning is still a bit of a shock. It wasn't a complete shock. But anyways, that knocked a lot of people out. So we faded that. A lot of these other entries that had like 10 plus, like they had a lot of Jets. So we faded them.
So when you say
We
a lot
also
of
kinda
other entries,
semi-faded-
there's people that have 15 picks, 20 picks, and a lot of them lost a lot of picks on Jets.
Yeah, a lot of them lost a lot of picks on Jets. So we avoided that pitfall. We also faded San Francisco, not because they were in any danger to losing, but like San Francisco had a lot of value, and they have a lot of value this week. And I'll get to this week in a second. We only took like 5 picks on them because again, it was very safe there. But what we heavied up on, we took like a lot of Dallas Cowboys, which a little too close for comfort. Not a lot of people were on them, and we took a lot of Cincy, right? Which was risky. Like Cincy was 0-3. All of a sudden Carolina had won a game. Cincy won that game pretty well. Like again, never in danger there, but that helped us out a lot. We didn't burn San Francisco. We didn't really burn. We burned like one Kansas. We didn't burn any sort of elite teams. That's been kind of like, if you look at our 32 entries, there's a lot of them where we haven't burnt good teams. Now, like we burnt Minnesota, that also looks like a good team. We burnt Washington, who might be a good team, but again, like none of the quote unquote elites that you can count on throughout the year. The only real misstep is we had 5 on Arizona, that was bad. And we had 5 on Miami too. And the Miami one like sucks. Like I thought Miami would be able to beat Will Levis and the Titans. They maybe would have beat Will Levis and the Titans, but he got knocked out early. So it is what it is. But we come out even stronger than we were last week. We still have 32 left. Go to this week.
That's arguable, Woodley. We
lost.
lost. I think the league. I think we lost the same percentage as the league roughly this time. But I mean, you've managed so well in the first 4 weeks or the first 3 weeks to just keep us in there.
But we didn't burn San Francisco. A lot of people that survived like burned San Francisco. And if you look to this week, there's 2 very the most chalky popular play. It's going to be San Francisco. They're playing Arizona, and a lot of people don't have them. And like I'm going to play some San Francisco. Like we're going to have a healthy amount, not too much. We're going to bank some because we can do a bit. And the other one is Seattle. Seattle's going to be very popular against the Giants as well. Like those by far are the 2 best picks. We have enough Seattle left. A lot of people do. That Seattle one is a little sneaky. There's some other plays out there as well.
Ryan, you can weigh in on this.
Popular.
No, I'm
Washington's
just agreeing.
pretty
I'm just
popular.
agreeing with Woodley that there's no easy games. Like, I mean, he's way more knowledgeable on this stuff than me. I'm just kind of going off my gut here. But yeah, the only one I kind of like that I feel decently safe about is the Seahawks. I think that, they're coming off a loss. They're at home. They're playing the Giants, who aren't great. Like Giants are, going on the road after being home and playing well. But I just think like Seattle's going to win that game. That's the only one that I like feel decent about. Like I don't even love the 49ers. To be fair, I didn't love the 49ers 100% this past week against the Patriots. The Cardinals are a better team than the Patriots, but it's a division game. Like anything can happen. The Cardinals, Marvin Harrison's a great player. Like Murray's a great player. Like anything can happen in that game. Do I think the Niners are going to win the game? Probably, but
if Arizona catches fire,
I would not like bet my house on the Niners winning that game. Like is it the second best pick? Maybe, but there's a lot of good Niners spots. I just think that the Seahawks are the only team I feel decent about this week. It's a really tough schedule. I agree with you.
There's a huge drop off too. I mean, listen, if Seattle loses, like half the pool is going to be out. I'm pretty confident in that one, or at least like 40% of the pool will be out. You'll see it in Circa and stuff like that as well. Again, like I've used a good amount of Seattle, so it kind of protects me against that. But like you have like Seattle and San Francisco, then everything else, it's like Washington versus Cleveland. Okay. Like the Bears at home versus Carolina. Okay. Like I've seen projections that have Denver as one of the higher picked teams. Like, good luck there. Then it's like Jacksonville and like Minnesota. KC feel kind of safe too. So we'll that one's worth looking at. It's a really tough week though. And I think saving.
It's very interesting. All right, guys, we're going to end up wrapping this podcast in just a minute. I just want to say this, Ryan, it's a good thing that Woodley's controlled those 150 picks. Cantu would have blown them all in 2 weeks for no reason. Technology challenge Cantu. I think Ryan, you would probably have about 10 picks left. I'd probably have about 10 picks left.
Hey,
A lot of
I will
favorites
say,
went down.
I will say this doesn't mean much, but I did a high stakes heads up survivor pool against somebody, and we started it in week 3. Week 3, we both lost. That was last week when like all the upsets happened. So we reset, and then week 4 he lost again, and I won. So I already won my heads up survivor pool.
You did give us Washington too, by the way, which I know both of my 2 remaining picks. There's 500 left. I still have 2 picks, and I used Washington because of you. So, all right, guys.
Like Woodley would say, even a broken squirrel is right twice a day.
Broken clock.
Shit! I thought it was squirrel.
That. Keep that in. Keep that in.
You didn't even mess.
Keep that in.
My mom told me the wrong saying.
All right, you guys.
Blind squirrel planted.
Goodbye from the WeWin Sports Podcast, and thank you for listening. I think it was a really fun week, and good luck this week. I think we had 1 or 2 consensus picks. Go back and check it out. Goodbye, everybody.